All right. Happy Sunday. Welcome back to Building CareCo, where I sit down once a week with my co-founder, CTO Llama, and we talk about the week. We're trying, last week we tried Saturday night over teas. This week we're trying Sunday morning post mid coffee. So we're kind of trying different vibes and we'll see what works. So yeah, it's a little different because I had the weekend to kind of reflect. It doesn't feel like I don't feel like I'm like in the middle of it. Like on the previous episodes, when you're
Right.
Thursday night, you're still in the middle of your week, still have Friday to go, and it feels like you're in the middle of it. I don't feel like I'm in the middle of it. So kind of interesting, but yeah, it was a good week. We started hitting 1,000 calls a day on CareCo, which is very exciting. 1,000 conversations, not 1,000
Right.
calls, like 1,000 full-on conversations. So that's pretty cool.
Pretty close, yeah.
Yeah. And usage was really good. Some slight issues, but overall, I think it was a pretty up week.
Yeah. I'm feeling like the noise of all the problems that we're having, but
Right.
sometimes you have to like differentiate and say, is it as bad as obviously you have to address everything that you can, but you have to also take a step back and understand, is it a fundamental problem? Are people going to not want to use our product or not want to, convert to our product because of that? Or is it an annoyance, but it's still worthwhile, but long term we have to fix it? So I feel like the phone issues that we had, I'm curious about that. Like it seemed existential, but
Right. I don't. It even to me, and I'm extra sensitive about these things, but even to me, it didn't feel existential this week. It felt like a problem. But I think that we encourage our users to report any issues, and our users almost feel like they're building this with us. And a lot of them are very excited about that. Like they feel very good about it. Someone mentioned to me that the best part of her job is that she feels like she's building CareCo together with us.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Nice.
like not per viva, like a random user. So
make sure they don't bill us for.
Yeah, exactly. So we have one client that will bill us, but no, this was not that one. So I think there's also that, like we encourage them, and we do. I want to know every single issue. I want us to have the best possible experience ever. So, so I think that also contributes to if you tell people to please tell you when something's wrong and that you really want them to, and then they do, you can't get all nervous that they're telling you when you just ask them to communicate. So I think that's definitely a part of it. I think you said something good on yesterday, where like, you also have to look at the percentage of, like, if I'm making a couple hundred calls a day and I have an issue with 3 of them, and that issue is addressed immediately, because one thing that, thank God, we're incredible with is communication. Like this, literally the split second a message comes in, we're on it and we're answering, and oftentimes just a simple, we have to reset a call or something like that. But yeah, I think you feel good about that. Like it really, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, like there's something that I haven't realized, that I'm realizing more and more, is that if we're in the space of phone calls and transactions, things that happen post phone call, and that's critical to the product that we're offering. And those are very sensitive things. Those are things that could go wrong with the phone. There's so many things that could go wrong in a phone call. And it's timely. Like you need it afterwards. You need it immediately. Like if I look at all the other apps out there that are building in the space, you can call them CRUD apps. It stands for create, read, delete, and update. Those are much more reliable in nature, because they're only dealing with your database, with your app. Like if we were a simpler CRUD app and we weren't, even if we were doing just ambient listening, I think our issues would be 99.9% less. So basically, we would have maybe one message a day per 100 users about a question / problem. The nature of the phone business, being in the phone business, is just potentially problematic in that sense. But I think we'll figure it out.
So
something we have to accept and realize, but also create a framework around how do we make it still the best for our users and for us to deal with it.
Right. So on the one hand, we made a decision at CareCo months ago, almost a year ago, to build a phone system, and that was a big decision. And you're saying a lot of these issues stem from the fact that we are the core telephony system. We're not just, so for those that are maybe not familiar, so CareCo is a co-pilot for care coordinators, and we built it basically from scratch. So we wanted to have a deeply integrated workflow tool, and so we built that entire workflow from A to Z. So you call inside the app, That's where you make your phone calls. We built a telephony system into the app really from scratch. And it's very super customized to care coordination, which is really cool. So the way that like the IVR works and the way that you're calling patients is very specific to care coordination. And then that gives you this feeling of like this very deeply integrated workflow tool, which I think is the future of all these AI tools. Everyone's trying to figure out how to be a workflow tool. Now, there are some other folks in the space. There's obviously the million scribes. So with CareCo, we do the entire workflow. So basically from making the call to pre-call, we have our call guide feature, which gives you like the perfect conversation topics to talk to the patient about today. It listens to the call, analyzes it. Post-call gives you your transcription, your documentation, your tasks, your action items, messages. It'll auto-generate them. Like if you have to write a message to a doctor about the patient based on the conversation, it'll write that for you. It'll write messages to the patient. It basically does all the steps of the workflow. So that's very different than a lot of scribes out there. And this is actually something that's worth clarifying, I think. There's a lot of scribes out there that people are coming across. A scribe is an idea. It used to be a human that would basically sit and just write documentation on things that the doctor was doing, or the doctor themselves would have to write documentation, or the clinician or the care coordinator. If you're doing anything in healthcare, you have to write documentation. So that was obviously a very tedious thing. And so one of the biggest opportunities in the market, which is now a multi-billion-dollar market, will probably come down, but whatever, valuations, is this idea of a scribe, where you can have an ambient listener. It'll listen to your interaction with a patient, and then it'll write documentation. And that's just called a scribe. That's a small feature of what we do in CareCo. So when you get off the phone, you also get your documentation. But I say all this just to give some context to what other folks are doing. Is they've built essentially little listeners that will just listen to your conversation, and then they give you your documentation, and that's it. And so the other people in the space, that's the direction.
It's like a recorder in the app. Yeah. It's like a recorder.
Right. And often it's either an app on the computer or it's a Chrome extension.
Right.
And it's basically sitting there as an external thing, and it's listening to your conversation with the patient, whether it's in person or over the phone. And then based on that, it's giving you your documentation. So we've chosen to go in a different direction. I think that there's value. I think there's like, now that we're in it and we see the downside and we see the upside, like, what's your take on the value? Like at this stage where we are right now, let's assume this will be interesting. Let's assume it doesn't get better. And there's always going to be some issues because we decided to be a phone system. In your view, does the value do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages?
I think we'll have to measure it over time and see, with more information that we get over time about how people find the value proposition of a phone being fundamental to them. But my intuition is that it is worth it. And it's also, it's a differentiator. Like it's a part of the thing of building a durable business is having something that that's hard for competitors to create. So whenever I run into one of these issues, like sometimes the way to calm myself down is, okay, this means if we pass this hurdle, it means, we're eliminating a lot of competition that could compete with us in this space. So I like that idea of doing stuff that are hard and succeeding at them, excelling at them, so that, anybody that wants to take a piece of the pie is going to have a really hard time. So that's one point of view. My intuition is that generally, from the customer's perspective, like from a business perspective, the value to clients will outweigh tremendously the effort we need to put in around it, especially once we have a proper framework. How do we deal with these kind of issues? Right now, it's unclear to us if it's the way we're doing things, if it's the provider, if it's just a series of bad luck that just came across. I think over time we'll have a better understanding of that. Also, once we have more clients, we'll be able to have more serious conversations with different providers and vendors, I think. So time is an advantage in that sense. But yeah, it's a huge differentiator. Like being able to offer a phone, like we see, like the workflow, the seamless, how it makes the workflow so much more seamless is tremendous. And I think anybody that if you have a user, in the like from a marketing perspective, from a sales perspective, is like LTV, right? What's long-time value of a customer? So it's like general value, but then you can also look like once I upsell or once I add more features, like how much is that value? So a lot of times you say, if I can get them to use my technology as a core backbone of their workflow or something, and give it them for the cheapest price possible, and then I can add a lot of value around that, that's a strategy that worked for a lot of people. Like think of Salesforce even. Salesforce really just started as a CRM, right? And then you have this whole marketplace that comes in and adds so much value, and you're so deep inside that you don't even think about leaving it because it's the core, it's like the backbone of your CRM, of your your communication with your customers. So I think something, and think about it also on the consumer level. If you think of a phone, for example, like if you have an Android or an iPhone, like they are the best. They are the most likely to benefit from selling AI to us. I mean, I don't know about Apple because Apple seems to not know what they're doing about AI, but this is like since 2023. I don't know what's going on there, but it's certainly a mess. But Google, I believe, the minute they nail and they're
Google and Microsoft are crushing.
Right, but Google has a huge advantage that they are on the phone in your hands, right? Microsoft the computer. I mean, yeah. Well, you want to use AI.
Very recently, Microsoft is like more and more looking more and more modern and doing more things like different like they're really pushing their Copilot. It's actually interesting because when the Copilot came out, it was kind of a fail. I think it's getting better and better and better, their Copilot. I haven't used it recently, but just from like what I'm feeling in the market and seeing it come up a bunch of times and the way they're pushing it, Satya is like all about this. I don't know if you saw this cute little clip they did. It was just their 50th birthday, Microsoft, this week.
Yeah, I saw something. I didn't look at it.
It was cute. It was basically the three CEOs of Microsoft. So Satya, Bill, and who's the crazy guy who would like sweat all over on stage and he'd be like, ah! Who's the guy?
Ballmer? Steve Ballmer?
Steve Ballmer, yeah. So it was the three of them, and they sat around, and the actual thing was kind of it was kind of stupid. It wasn't actually that interesting, but they basically sat around with their AI Copilot, and they did like the AI Copilot like roasting them all individually and showing how to know stuff about them, whatever. But like it was pretty
trying to use a marketing moment.
Yeah, it was a marketing moment, but whatever. Anyway, sorry to digress, but it's cool to see them fail fast and keep moving. Like for a company that size.
Yeah. They have Satya has a very, lean, try, don't be afraid. You're a behemoth of a Microsoft, but you still, don't carry that weight when you're making decisions. And so, yeah, that's very impressive. But I think back to my point about distribution, Google has an unfair advantage over Microsoft because they have, billions of users using their phones, right? And once you have that, you can deliver AI, and you can basically leapfrog any app that wants to build AI. First of all, because you're more deeply integrated into the OS. You can say privacy, like Apple's playing this game where they don't allow other vendors to create products on the thing because they say privacy. If you see that, who was talking about it? Mark Zuckerberg talked about it a few months ago on his Facebook post about the headpiece, how Apple kind of locked people out. So they use this fancy privacy, thing to give them unfair advantage. And I think Google, but regardless of that, if you are the platform, you have the person. The person's going to use, and if you offer if Google offers a great assistant that's locked into your phone, connects to your Gmail, knows your contacts, knows knows your schedule, knows your history, sees all your text, even listens to you live, maybe. Like they can offer the perfect assistant, and they have the perfect AI. Once they do that, who's not going to pay $200 a month for that? Who's not going to pay $300 a month for that?
Yeah.
And then, so maybe most of their users are not going to be able to pay for it. People in developing countries are not going to afford it. So maybe they'll adjust the price for those. But suddenly they'll have everybody. No one can compete with that. So I think having a fundamental platform that people use. So I think a phone, back to our case, circling back, a phone is a fundamental communication thing that everything surrounds around. If you have the communication platform that people use, it's hard to move that over. And once you have that, you can offer a lot of value because we know that there's a lot of buried, treasures in these conversations that don't get their way to any other place. And once you extract that through AI, you can do so much. You can learn so much about the person. You can create tasks for the person involved. So I'm very. I know technically we can integrate with other phone systems like we have with RingCentral, but I think owning that and creating a great experience around that is it feels to me like a strategic long-term thing, and we just have to figure out how to manage the noise that comes with the support. But I think we need to figure out a good framework, and we'll do that, to help users have a better experience and for us to manage it.
Yeah, I actually agree tremendously. Like as you're talking, I'm thinking through like all the points that you're saying and also my own lived experiences and you think about, I don't have a good cross over, like analogy yet that correlates directly, but you think about the rise of Zoom during COVID. I mean, Zoom was like, so what, it captured all these people and it moved them to a core platform of communication.
Right.
And then once, and then they became.
They didn't execute on that well, in my opinion.
I don't know. It seems like they have a massive piece of the market, especially when it comes to healthcare communications and whatever. But
they focus too much on enterprise. Yeah.
But
today you don't see anybody using Zoom. You see everybody's really?
Yeah, a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people. But I think that going back to what you're saying, there's two things that are playing in my head right now. One thing is this piece that I saw. Good friend of the pod. We're gonna start calling people that we like. Brendan Keeler, who I've mentioned a couple times on the podcast. He brought this up. I think he was quoting somebody else, and I forget who the original poster was. But basically saying how all these AI wrapper companies, and I don't mean wrappers on AI. I mean like these different tools like scribes and whatnot have to be very, very, very careful and not about the AI that they're wrapped around. Basically what he was saying is, don't be scared about being an AI wrapper because you're wrapped around the ChatGPT or whatever. You need to be scared about the EHR that you're wrapped around because they have the distribution and the bundling power. And he basically went into this whole thing about how they could easily just basically crush you. And I think that so there's that basically playing in my head. And then there's also just me looking at the different AI meeting tools that I've tried using myself. And at the end of the day, because it was a third app, even though it integrated into my calendar, I stopped using it after a while for two reasons. First of all, one that we've covered on the podcast, which is that the meetings didn't feel, the meeting notes were not trained specifically on me, which is something you could technically fix, but like they weren't actually taking the notes that I wanted it to take. It was just giving summaries and trying to make guesses about the conversation. Number two is a practical quality issue because it wasn't integrated, which is that because it wasn't integrated, meaning because it wasn't the actual platform that I was speaking on, it didn't know who was talking as well. And therefore, a lot of the context got mixed up. Now, we seem to be still doing well with, we do, I'd say, equally well with our integration with RingCentral than our own phone system. So I'm curious about that. So I want to revisit that with you in a second. But there was a quality issue. But finally, it was just the annoyance. At the end of the day, what I had to do, my workflow was I would go to Google Meet. And instead of starting the meeting from Google Meet, I had to go to this third app, which was connected to my Google Meet. And then I would have to start my Google Meet from the third app, from the third-party app. And then that would launch my Google Meet and it would start taking notes, right? And you have other ones that could join your meeting automatically, but those have another host of issues. And they're also annoying when they're there in your meeting. But not to digress. The point is that, like, first of all, you can swap one to the other. You can try Fireflies today, and the next one, cost. And fly, and whatever it is, the next day, no problem. Exactly. You can swap them in and out, right? And then there's the workflow issue. So I do think that bringing both of those points together, it might be a little bit slower than just putting out an ambient listener like a Plod or whatever. One of these million people that are doing ambient listeners might be a little slower, and it's interesting because we are going to have to do an ambient listener for some use cases. But at the end of the day, if we're able to capture people on our platform, it's better for the user, it's better for the actual quality of the output, and we are probably one of the only people in the space that don't have to be scared of the EHR because the system that we're not wrapped around the EHR, we're wrapped around your phone. We are your phone.
Exactly.
And when we become your phone is kind of.
Epic is not eating our lunch. Epic is not coming tomorrow and saying, you know what, we have a new phone system. They're not doing that. They will come and say, we have a scribe, and they're going to eat all these AI scribes' lunch. They're going to just decimate it because they're going to come out and they're going to say, oh, it's a third of the price. And it's fully integrated. You're already using Epic. Why open up a new window? It's just as good.
It's bundled in. It's right here.
It's bundled in. Then they're going to raise their bundling prices. They're going to do probably the Microsoft, bundling tactic, but it works.
Yeah.
But they're not going to come to one thing I know for sure. Our experience with the phone, they're not going to want to get into this. This is not scalable on the way they want to scale. I mean, maybe they will at some point, but they're not coming tomorrow and saying, "Oh, we have a phone system. Just port your numbers, start using it, no problem." They're not doing that. But the AI scribes, they will. So this gives us a lot of durability against that, and we're providing tremendous value to the customer. So it's a win-win. It seems like.
By the way, Epic just joined X.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah, it's really funny actually. And I actually want to make a big deal about this. Like, we should actually do a clip on this from what we're talking about, because I think it's an inflection point in a vibe shift at Epic that I think we're watching. I think that Epic has long been this closed box of
the walled garden
of
regulatory capture.
Yeah, it was just like this weird this city out in, what is it, Minnesota, Wisconsin? I think Wisconsin, or Minnesota. I don't know. This, like, where they own like this town that a bunch of, like, almost like a cult following for all the employees, and it's like you can't really peek in, and no one knows what's going on, and their executives are all hush hush, and no one's allowed to say anything, and everything is like very obscure, very murky, very like not clear, and not only are they on X, but the style, whoever they hired to run their X account is freaking hilarious. First of all, being super off the cuff. Like, I opened this morning and someone replied to the Epic account.
Proof to me that you're...
No, it replied, "I don't think you're gonna have a good time on here." And Epic replied with a GIF that was so bad that it said that you couldn't even see it. It was like a graphic content, click to view. And it was like a boxer who was bashed up in the face so bad, like bleeding from everywhere. Like, like, it was funny. It was off the cuff. It was not corporate-y at all. And the general style that you could tell is like not corporate-y at all. And so I think between that, and some other things I'm seeing on the regulatory side, how I think that they're coming more around to be a lot more, on the one hand, they still have this giant ongoing lawsuit with Particle and these other folks, but I think that they are coming around to be more accessible, more integratable, more, friendly. And I think they're smart because, in the age of AI, like, especially as we get more into agents and different things, I'm sure you could speak to this. It's going to become like, it's not going to be their choice anymore. Like, we're going to get to a world pretty soon where anyone's going to be able to integrate with Epic, like it or not. Like, we're going to be integrated. And so I think that they're doing a good job with being ahead of the curve and trying to take a step ahead of it. And it's really, really interesting. So I actually recommend that everyone go and follow the I think it's Hey Epic on X. And it's funny.
Yeah. Let me try to describe this also in from a different perspective. So the way I see it, I mean, I think similar to what you're saying. Basically, until now, they played the defensive role. They were able, through, some people claim, regulatory capture, convince the Obama administration at the time to make rules of who qualify, rules of EHRs that qualify for some sort of grants or maybe the marketplace for insurance. No, I don't remember what it was, but something. And they basically, a long laundry list of features in EHR, which basically matched one for one the Epic thing. And there was one person that was in the Obama administration that then worked at Epic.
Board or something
there. So that they were able, in the healthcare space, we know once you get something and you have someone's workflow deep inside, like an EHR, it's very hard to move out of. And they also kind of, with their marketplace, with their apps, some people claim they make it hard and unfair for people to get in. So they kind of own their customers, like deep to a place that they can't get out. So they kind of more playing the defense in terms of not, what I mean defense is, they're not saying let's be the best and let the customers choose us because we're the best. Maybe they're also working hard to make a great product, but it's more of the mindset of let's lock out other competitors and other people trying to eat our lunch. And they're able to do that through regulation, through healthcare being very slow, through all the HIPAA compliance stuff. And now what's happening is we're seeing multiple shifts. First of all, it's an agentic world. So until now, to be able to do without AI, to be able to do a deep integration with Epic, we know it's not trivial. It's hard. Sometimes you need even buy-in from the Epic people, which is not easy. And now with AI, you can have basically an agent representing a user. They sign in, they click, they're smart about where to grab things, where to put things. I mean, you could have done this before the age of AI, but with AI, it's much easier, much more reliable, and much quicker. So it makes it it proliferates that concept, as well as the fact, I think, maybe, let me make the case that the AI scribes is also making them wake up, because the AI scribes is maybe a way for people to penetrate into the market. They're saying, people are going to use our AI scribe and then we'll sell them other stuff. And suddenly Epic I don't know why they haven't released the AI Scribe yet. Have they released
No.
something? But in the meantime, they're seeing a lot of their customers paying hundreds of millions of dollars to these new companies that are entering. And then these companies, if they're moving fast enough around that, they can create a lot more features and value. If you're already using our product, now they can start taking away from Epic's lunch. So they're probably and with the regulation as a third element to this, they're saying, hey, we can't play this game anymore. We have to try to just be the best and win customers by good marketing, good product. So I think it goes along with what you're saying. So that's and it's smart that they're not
Very
waiting
smart.
a few years. They're taking the charge and they're moving with it.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Moving along to another piece of wonderful news that literally made I think it was Thursday. Our good friend and advisory board member, David Banks, was just promoted. So he was the group CEO for the primary care division at Advent Health, and he was just promoted. So the president and CEO is a guy named Terry Shaw, and he announced a couple months ago that he was retiring. And the board of directors of Advent nominated and approved and promoted David Banks to be president and CEO of Advent Health, which is phenomenal. Like, if I could just say a couple words on David, he is, I just recently sat with him on stage at HIMSS. We did that keynote together. I flew down to Orlando and did a podcast episode with them. He is just one of the most level-headed executives he's just so practical. He has such a clear way of saying. Every single time I sit with him, I come out with, and it feels like both of us, like we have a really good vibe. Where like we come out with something new, something exciting in the conversation, something interesting, something innovative. He just thinks through things very clearly. He has a lot of wisdom just from his time. Like he's been doing this since the 90s. He's been watching value-based care since the 90s. He's seen the ups and downs. He has such a balanced approach, and he's just he's just really awesome. And you could tell from everybody that works with him, everybody on the team, and I've met dozens of folks over at Advent, everybody loves him. I just could not be happier, both for him. I think it's obviously super well deserved, but for the organization. I think Advent is doing a lot of really exciting things, specifically in AI. I had a really good chat a little bit ago with their head of AI. And so under David's leadership, I think they're going to take it 10x. And I'm just, congrats to David. Really, really happy for him.
Saying good choice.
Very, very good choice. Could not have gone better.
What's his background? Like, where you're saying mostly value-based care is where he spent his time?
I think it's just running a health system at different levels. But he's been watching value-based care since the 90s. There's been so many different models and so many different, ebbs and flows of it. And
saying he has a strong interest in it.
Yeah. And he has a lot of wisdom, with experience comes wisdom, where when something happens, the rest of the world is freaking out. And he's like, it's okay.
I was going to put in perspective.
Yeah. He has really, really good perspective.
And Advent Health is just a health system. Yeah. Like, do they have any leaning towards value-based care? Do they do value-based care?
Yeah, they do a lot of value-based care. They have both. They're a pretty big health system. They're a $25 billion health system.
But like other health systems, right? Nothing.
But they seem
particular.
Very innovative. Like talking with their head of AI and seeing the direction that they're going, you could tell that they're focused on on 10, 20 years out.
Nice.
And they do a really good job.
All right.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Really awesome. Yeah. So that's on David Banks. On other news, we hired our first support person from overseas. We looked at. She's actually starting tomorrow, not Tuesday. We looked briefly at the Philippines. We ended up going with somebody from India, and that probably sounds interesting to folks, given the type of vibe that I think we have at CareCo, but we're going to try to do things very differently. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Like, I'm perfectly fine to fail at this and move on.
You also try to hire someone locally.
Yeah, I also tried locally. People are not. It just wasn't it.
The millennial, the Gen.
Yeah, this new generation is cooked. I don't know. I'm talking to these people, and it's just like, oh my goodness, this kid. Anyway, I don't want to bash people, but found somebody in India. What I'm looking for when it comes to support is extremely friendly, extremely transparent, and extremely human. So, first of all, instant support, the way that we've had till now. The second a message comes in, there's instant communication. And I want the person to be very non-corporate, very friendly, like what we've been doing, things like sending emojis and GIFs in our support. I know it might sound stupid to people, but I think it's a huge like culture thing about CareCo that support should be fun. Support is usually like so annoying. You should feel that there's some person sitting somewhere that cares that you have a good experience. That's what support should mean.
Especially you're reaching out because you're having a problem, so kind of changes.
And instead of like getting a bunch of system messages, like you'll hear back within 3 hours. Like
fill out this form.
Yeah, exactly. Fill out instant and fun. And the second you feel like it might be worthwhile for you to just jump on the person's screen because maybe they're just not tech savvy and they don't even know what they're looking at. And it's probably they just need to refresh and they don't even know how to, like something like that. The second there's even the thought that it might be worthwhile, send them a Google Meet link, jump on a meeting with them with your camera on, looking normal, with a good camera, with a good microphone, looking presentable, and say, hey, share your screen, be fun, be friendly. That's what I'm looking for. So it's actually funny because this girl that we ended up hiring had worked for Amazon for a while. So I asked her, do you communicate with your friends ever on WhatsApp? She's like, yeah. I'm like, do you use emojis and GIFs? So she's like, yeah. And then she immediately jumps into, she thought where I was going was going to give her a whole speech on how to be professional. So she immediately dives into this whole thing of like, I would never send a GIF or an emoji in professional though, because it's very important. She starts like sounded like she's like reading in her head, like a policy from Amazon where she's like, it's very important to be professional and you cannot use emojis in communications because then the customer is not going to think that you're professional and then they're not going to trust you to fix their problem. And she goes for like 5 minutes and I just smiling. I let her finish. I'm like, so we're going in the opposite direction. I want you to yes, use emojis. I want you to yes, use GIFs. I want you to be friendly. I want you to be human. I want you to be fun. So I'm excited to try that out because it's really important to let our engineers get off support and start creating first level, second level of support and layers. But also it's critical to me that we keep that customer experience and not outsource that to somebody that feels like, because here's my belief. Like, it's not about the geography. Like, it doesn't matter if the person's in India or Utah. Like, what matters is that you can clearly understand them. You can clearly hear them. One of the biggest, most annoying things with support overseas, you can't hear them. Physically, you can't hear them. Then on top of that, there's a very, very thick accent. You can't understand them.
Right.
That's so frustrating, right? And then the third thing I think that compounds the frustration is people reading off the stupidest scripts that they've been given by some corporate person that they think is going to make the customer feel good. Like all that validation BS, like, oh, I understand that you're feeling, don't understand that I'm feeling frustrated. Fix my problem. How about that? Okay. Like so if we could do things very different where make sure that you can understand the person, make sure you can clearly audibly hear the person, and then make the person fun and friendly so you don't feel like you're speaking to some corporate handbook, I think that's a recipe for success. So I'm more than happy to fail at this endeavor and move on and try somewhere else, maybe somewhere that's more English speaking. But I think it's exciting to hire our first person and,
Why the age of AI? Why aren't everybody's talking about AI for customer service? Do you want to double click on that?
Yes. Great point. So we're adopting a very interesting fundamental approach at CareCo when it comes to augmentation with AI. We are an AI augmentation company. That's who we are at our core. But what I want to do, and I think what we're going to do as a company is we want to augment things that seem like you could never augment. And we want to de-augment. I need a better word for this, but we want to specifically go in the opposite direction. We want to humanize the things that people expect you to automate. So in our product, that means that what's our approach from a product perspective? All the annoying, tedious, burnout-inducing aspects of your workflow, we're going to augment that for you, right? Whether that's prep before your call, after your call analysis, documentation, generating different things. You don't need the brain space. You don't need to spend the brain space doing that. We're going to do that for you. But the human part, we want to leave that to the care coordinator. Actually asking the questions, actually delivering the care, actually being human, we want to leave that. And I want to do that at the company level too. So I think support is a really good example because the rest of the world is busy figuring out how to fire all their support staff and how to and just replace it with AI bots, right? I want to go in the opposite direction when it comes to something like support. Your experience when it comes to support should be incredible. It should be instantly human. When you expect to have to go through 14 different AI levels of botness in order to maybe be given finally the prompt of like, no, I need something else, no, 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 something else. Are you sure it's not one of the, no, something else? Okay, fine, you could contact us. Here's how you could contact us. Either send an email or wait to chat, or if you really need to, you could schedule a call for 2 days from now. Like that's the typical experience right now when it comes to like SaaS products for support. I want it to be the exact opposite. The second I want the experience to be that you're sitting there, you're working hard on a platform, you're working hard, you're using CareCo. You should know that there's somebody that works for CareCo that is sitting somewhere in the world that actually cares that you have a good experience on the platform. And therefore, the second you're having any kind of issue or you have a question or anything to do that you need to contact support, the response should be instantaneous. It should be real human. And the second that it feels like that it would be easier and faster for you to get on a call with somebody, you should have that ability. That's what I want to do from support.
And the reason why all SaaS they prevent support is because on their balance sheet, or on their revenue, basically they need to eliminate spend and increase profitability. And support is just not scalable in certain businesses, especially in highly competitive SaaS businesses. If you're going to have support people, it's going to mean that for every customer that you have, you need to pay a certain amount of support. So they try to eliminate that. But I think for us, putting finances aside, like first and foremost, we want to build something that we would enjoy using. We're not going to build something that we wouldn't enjoy just because some financial, guy from Harvard is going to tell us, oh, this is not how you do it. And then we'll figure it out. Actually, I think that we can use a lot of AI, but instead of, and contrary to a lot of people that want to just stick AI into processes, no, stick AI and bring it to the human that's doing it and surface to them, just like we do with CareCo, where the person, while they're talking, they see all this information, they're given tips. Say in customer support, as they're trying to help a customer with their problem, you have an AI on the side that's listening to the conversation and giving you tips and saying, oh, or even helping you through the decision, tree and telling you, oh, how about this? How about that? Oh, maybe this. And then, maybe at some point, if we see this conversation is going too long, a more senior or an engineer can pop in and see what's going on and maybe dive in there. So AI is a tool. It's not a replacement. It's a tool that surfaces a lot of data, but the customer experience should still be, there's a human there, someone that understands my problem, someone that's trying to help me, someone that's there with me. And especially a lot of these care coordinators that we've seen, sometimes they can have a tough day because they're talking to people that get upset at them or depends who and depends when, but just being that person that's going to be there and smile, and show them that they care is something they're going to remember. They're not going to forget about.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying this for a fact, but I could see a world where we actually invest in proprietary tools for support. Like if I would build something like an intercom, I would have everything that they have today, but as part of, so basically on intercom, you're using two functionalities at all times. You're using a reply to the user, or you can have an internal note so that it's in the same conversation.
So intercom, just to clarify, intercom is our communication tool with our customers. So a lot of times on websites, you'll see like this little bubble in the bottom that you click and you start chatting. So we also have that, and we're using the intercom platform.
Yeah, intercom is, exactly. So what I would want on there is two things. First of all, imagine a feature that you could push a button and the user basically confirms, like allows it, and then it records their screen. And then they basically go through it, they hit stop, and it moves into the chat, you view it, and then it disappears after whatever. Once you view it, it disappears or whatever. That would be one thing that I think would be extremely helpful. And the other thing is a built-in screen share. So instead of me going to Google Meet and putting a link in and joining, one button, click, like literally a video call, just video call. Here you go, video call. Oh, okay, I see. Press this, press that, whatever. Those are two things that
they may have that already. You should check out Intercom's features. But yeah, we can easily do that. We can easily generate that.
Yeah.
And I think talking about like humanizing things versus augmenting things, I think in the world of AI, like down the line, if you think about like careers, like probably one of the careers that won't be replaced with AI, which will probably only be more valuable in the age of AI, is anything that's human, that has a human element to it. So like, psychologists, coaches, mentors, even teachers in school, these things, the value will be great, will be tremendously higher because people will say, I need that. I need the human aspect. I'm dealing with machines all day. I just want to speak to a human. And the better quality the human is, the more they'll appreciate it and want to pay more. And at the same time, from the supply, this is from the demand perspective, from the supply element, there's going to be also less supply because, we may reach a point where we have where everything is so cheap because everything's automated. So people need a stronger reason to go out to work, right? If everything's so automated, and so from the supply side, it may also be harder for people to say, "Let me spend time and do this kind of stuff." So
yeah,
I think like that's an interesting point that I want to make.
Yeah. Anyways,
that's it. We're out of time.
I think so. Yeah. All right. Here's to episode not sure what, but I think we're past the point of remembering episodes, so it'll be in the description. 11, episode 11. And yeah, excited. You know what we'll do? We'll actually send this episode to this new person we hired, so she can hear like third person objective view on what it's essentially. We did a giant job description that I think is actually helpful. So cool.
Yeah, nice,
awesome.
Also, okay, I wanted to say my prediction about Anthropic.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, no. So this week, just I think yesterday or 2 days ago, Meta dropped
Llama 4.
Llama 4, and like if you look at the scoring based on performance, I think it's up there with Claude 3.7 or maybe even better slightly. But it's practically dirt cheap. It's probably 15 times cheaper on output tokens and like 6 times or 5 times cheaper on input tokens.
Wow.
On average, based on our usage, it's probably 10 times cheaper. And with Grok, for example, we can get it. With Grok, we're also getting it probably 3-4 times faster. So better, faster, cheaper, significantly. So yeah, I'm looking at like a company like Anthropic, which most of their usage is through API. It's not users. And API, we know people can switch quickly. Like I'm looking at such a company, I'm like, they're going to be doomed. Like in a year, they're going to be out of business. My prediction. Nostra Shlomo.
Oh, Nostradamus. All right, awesome.